That's very, very good. All right, take two. There we go. Welcome to the show. I've got that Martini guy. It's Jordan, right?
Yes, it's Jordan. It's Jordan.
All right, all right. This is actually a really cool, quick backstory, and then we'll get into it. So, somebody sent me. It was either a DM or a tweet that you had said, "Hey, I'm the only guy here on crypto Twitter with a Lamborghini," and I thought, one, that was an awesome flex, and I think someone like tweeted at you. No, I think Jason's got one too. So
yeah.
That immediately, just because I like cars, led me to just kind of click on who you were, because I wasn't following you. And then, I went to your YouTube page and literally, I think I spent like at least 30, 40 minutes watching your story, which is inspiring. Like, I loved it. I love these stories of persistence, these stories of overcoming things, these stories of like common people who aren't born into privilege, just going after it. And this isn't linear. You don't just go straight to success. So anyway, welcome to the show. I think we have a lot in common, but I'm really, really excited to talk with you.
As am I. It's quite a pleasure being invited on.
Very good. So Jordan, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you grew up, what does family look like, and we'll start there.
So I grew up north in England, near Leeds, Manchester area. It's not
Leeds is frightening in regards to a football team right now. Like I've been watching them as they've been promoted to as they've been promoted to into the top tier. They are good. Like I'm so thankful we didn't face them. I'm a Manchester United fan. That we didn't face them the first 3 or 4 games of the season. They would have drug us all over the place.
They're very good for a newly promoted championship side, and it's the magic of the boss at the top that's doing all the magical work with useless players that has turned them all into magicians overnight.
Incredible. So congratulations. I guess you're a Leeds fan.
Yes, I am.
Very good. Sorry I interrupt you, but continue.
Yeah. So I grew up there. Never from money. My dad's a plumber. My mom works for council. But for me, it's always been one of them. I've always been pretty good with money. I've always been pretty good with blagging my way through things. And I've always been fairly ambitious as far as people go. But I got myself. So growing up, I was, always kind of fairly top in class, but then leaving school, I left early because I was no longer an academic at that point. I'd found other interests. For example, Google is a far better educator than any 50-year-old man in a classroom. And so that's the route that I started going down. But for me, it's always been I've been ambitious. I'm always very, very ambitious. Anything you set out to achieve, you try and do the best at it. But I got stuck in the rut of going down the normal route with a normal job and no way out. So I did that for 6 years of my life. But before that, I was... What?
What was that job?
I was selling control valves for oil rigs. So I was working in the oil and gas sector, sizing and selecting different things that slow down the oil as it goes around a rig so that it can be processed. It sounds... I don't know. I think it sounds more interesting than it actually is. It's basically just a bunch of numbers on a screen, and it calculates the size of this thing needs to be. And these things, like the value of an oil platform when you're building it, is they cost multi-millions of pounds. Unfortunately, none of that money goes to the person that's selling it, because they don't work on commission in that sector until you get fairly high up. And so because you're not working on a commission, there's no real incentive to sell anything, because you're salaried. And so for me, that ends up with a very kind of lax work environment where everybody is just quite happy to come in every day, sell a couple valves and go home. I'll make a couple valves and go home. But then the problems in the company, they were quite stressful. I'm sure that you've encountered problems in traditional companies whereby things get stuck. There are certain sticking points, and theirs was quality assurance, whereby if something was not right when the valve was being made, it would have to go back through that whole process and get made again, meaning that the company would then probably make a net loss on that valve. So the valve industry, there's no money in it. I make more money in the past year than the company that I used to work for, that employs above 160 people, made in the last year, which is incredible, because that it shows you the way that a growing market is going versus a dying market, which is the oil and gas market. There's no money there anymore, not like there used to be.
Yep. So again, one similar kind of life point that I'll touch back on with you as you continue with your story. But all right, so started in oil and gas, selling valves. What happens? What changes?
A couple of major life events. So I knew my girlfriend needed to move to London because she got a job as a lawyer in the city. And so for that, I was like, I need to move to London as well. I need to get out of the current
Did you stick
situation
with
I'm in.
her?
Yeah. I'm still with
This
her.
sounds like an earner. You're doing
Yeah,
pretty well.
yeah. I've been with her 7 years.
All right,
It's
all right.
it's
I'm
going
just
fairly well.
checking. Look, these decisions are all important in the end game.
Yeah, so anyway, I decided I need to move to London. I need to get out. I need to experience the world. And I had zero way of doing that because I was earning £1,700 a month. And anybody that knows earning £1,700 a month, it doesn't go that far. Especially like even me. I was living with my parents. I was saving pretty much everything that I was making, but I was still not making that much money. And so to break out of that, and now my rent is more than 1.5 times what I used to earn per month. There's literally no way to break that cycle and move out from up north because wages are so very different in the UK. When you start moving down south, everything keeps going up and up and up. Even in that sector, if I'd have been doing the same job in London, I'd have been looking at maybe 60, 70 grand a year. But up north, it was, I mean, they kept me on a very low wage for a very long time anyway, because I joined as an apprentice. And I felt like I got mick taken out of me there when it came to my wage because everyone was earning double what I was earning.
And that was because of training, credentials, or simply where you entered the company?
It's I started on £6,000 a year at that company,
Wow.
which is it's not very much money, and it's because why pay somebody more? It is the question. What value do they add? Now I was number one salesman at that firm. This is what made me just I need to go. I was number one. I'd done the most volume in terms of sales that year, and it's because I was working harder and I want a wage rise. I want to get out of this. Didn't work out. Would give me a wage rise, and so I knew that I kind of had to go. And so that's when I kind of started doing YouTube. So I started doing YouTube in 2016. I started out doing car YouTube, trying to like review cars, blogging my way into dealerships, saying that I'd like to buy a Porsche. Can I borrow it, please, so I can film with it for an hour? I got no way of affording the thing, but I'd go through the whole like you can finance it by paying this much amount per month, and blogging my way through it, just trying to borrow as many cars as possible. Again, that didn't work out because I couldn't even afford a camera to film the videos with. So they were terrible quality. And so then I moved on to making more indoor YouTube videos that are slightly more sustainable. If you can sit indoors in front of a camera, then you can make a video at any time of day. It doesn't really matter. Whereas cars, you need weather, you need everything needs to go right for you to make that video. And it's also a massive task at the same time. And also, there's no money in making car videos. I know quite a lot of car YouTubers from when I did that. They don't make any money. The money in car YouTube is in sponsorship, and sponsors don't pay that much money, to be honest, because it's so diluted is the space, whereas crypto is completely the opposite. There's not enough supply in the media to match the demand of what is people are wanting to watch. So you'll scroll through 50, 60 different videos and you'll have covered the entirety of cryptocurrency and you want more, but there just isn't that thing. And it was around that time. So before all this, I'm getting quite confused in terms of the story because I was originally into Bitcoin in 2013. But I didn't make any money on it because I sold it all in 2016 for exactly what I paid for it all. Because I bought at the top of the last bull run and I sold at the start of the next one.
How were
And
you introduced to Bitcoin? I'm always interested in kind of the beginning. So
Silk Road. So I was at school at the time,
you were buying
and
cocaine?
I never bought anything illicit on the internet. I was interested in the fact that you could buy something illicit on the internet. And at that time, I was quite interested in computers and stuff like that. And so I just fell down the rabbit hole of, oh, what's this thing? I'll buy a little bit of it, see what's happening. There were a lot of hype around it at the time, and then it all just fell away, and I kind of forgot about it. For me, it only got a bit serious in 2017, but towards the middle of 2017, because I rebought again at kind of around I think it was the start of 2017, and I bought like £700 worth of Bitcoin and various different things. And by the end of 2017, I had 60 grand, which was, I mean, that's a decent return, is that on anyone's money? But Unfortunately, I didn't manage to keep all that. I did all lose it later on because that was the reality of the bear market. And of course, nobody took profits. So that was all fun. So I'm just completely lost actually now as to where I was. Give me
Well,
a reminder.
yeah, no worries. Well, let me make a comment. So you strike me as someone who learns from life and life's mistakes. You also learn when you do something right, right? So this is just basic biology. And
Mhm.
it sounds to me that buying Bitcoin in 2013, not taking profit, getting wrecked in 2016, then buying Ethereum is a normal progression. Sometimes it's reversed, but it's a normal progression. So now you're into 2016, you're holding Ethereum. What does life look like though for you? You're now full-time blogging, quit your job, you're a
So
YouTuber. I mean, how
right.
are you making money?
So at the time, I was still working. I'd come home, I'd work all day, and I'd come home and at 6 o'clock. I'd start filming a video and try and put it out before 12 o'clock at night, and then end up going to bed at about 3 in the morning. Wake up at 6, do the same again. And so I was burning the candle both ends, and it wasn't working out. I was getting progressively and progressively later for work, and I was probably like, at the time I quit my job, I was probably I mean, I didn't quit my job till 2018, but it was like a progression of, you know, how things get worse and worse and worse over time. I'm not making any money. Bear market kind of ruined everything. And then I got hacked and that took the rest of it. I was back down at literally zero by July. And then in July, I was in a car accident. And then that cost me like literally everything else that I had. So I was down at literally zero. So I've felt zero now. And I'm thinking, well, zero feels like ass. I don't like zero. It's not very fun to be incredibly depressed. And so at that point, something had to change. And at that point, that was when I was like, I'm going full time crypto. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it in 6 months.
Let me
Um,
stop you there again. How old were you when you hit that zero?
um, 22, I think.
All right.
Yeah, 22, I think.
22, were you still living at home?
Yeah,
22, still living at home, still have a job,
yeah.
but have really gone through you that was an enormous amount of money if you had about $60,000 at
Mhm,
22, especially with the wages you're earning. To
mhm.
lose all of that. And it sounds like this car accident also was something
W-
significant. Were
It
you
was
hurt
significant.
badly or
It was significant. It was expensive, and it was stressful.
yeah.
And we'll leave it at that
Uh,
because it's an interesting one.
I'm
Not
sorry that happened,
entirely.
Jordan.
Yeah, no, it was an unfortunate situation. Is the best way of describing that. But I ended up selling the car for a $12,000 loss. So I was in the red at that point, and um, I had no money, literally nothing. And I was back to, I managed to build up all those savings. Savings have gone, and I've not directly kind of done anything bad myself, which was the annoying thing. Um, but I'm sure that anybody that's felt kind of that bottom, that is the best drive that you can have because not going back there again, that wasn't fun. And so the coming out of that was when I started going like, I'm going to do crypto full time, and then crypto full time is not profitable until you acquire either sponsorship, you become good at trading, or you do a combination of different things, which is sponsorship, trading, YouTube videos, YouTube ad revenue. It's like this month is the first month that I've actually made what you consider a livable wage from YouTube ad revenue. Which is, I mean, it's the first time that I've even come close to $2,000 in a month of ad revenue, which is almost what I used to earn in a month. So for me, that's nice to see that growth. But back then it was nothing. I was $10 a month off YouTube ad revenue, even getting all these views because no one was spending on adverts at the time. YouTube had the apocalypse, and crypto videos were not getting views because it was the middle of the bear market. And so for me, I came up with kind of a strategy at that time, which was Bitcoin was getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. In fact, a friend of mine, is now my friend, he wasn't my friend for a while. He gave me a Bitcoin to try and get me out of the situation. He gave me a Bitcoin. You trade this, we'll make some money off it. And I managed to turn that Bitcoin into 3 Bitcoin. And then I lost it all again because I'm an idiot. So I know that I can trade. I've always been like, I've been trading since what, 2015, before I think I was even legally allowed to trade.
Did you do Forex trading before, stock trading? What were you doing before Bitcoin
I
trading?
was using plus 500. I don't know if you're familiar with
Leverage?
that. Yeah, yeah. And I was trading all sorts of different things. Really had no focus on what I was trading. It was more of really, that's how I started out anyway. Just kind of read a news article. Someone says something's going to go up, I'll buy it. And then I kind of got a bit more sophisticated in that, started looking at bots and stuff like that. And then I've actually, the most successful technique I've ever done is literally just trading the same thing over and over and over again, because you become quite in tune with the market. And that's how I did that 1 to 3 Bitcoin and then back to zero again, because it was when Bitcoin crashed below $6,000. And my I thought it's not going to go below $6,000. I'll put a lot of money on this, and it did go below $6,000, didn't it? And that was, again, expensive mistake. But you learn from mistakes, and if you don't learn from mistakes, then you keep making them. And so at that point, I kind of learned what a stop loss was. Um, and since then it's been on the up and up, because it was there's a lot of stuff I've actually kind of brushed over in this.
No worries. Let me stop you again, Jordan. In my life, I build teams. I'll get it. I'd rather talk about you than me, but I build teams. And that's how I've been able to make money. The core of my thesis around these teams has been to try to find the human, uh, like unique motivation of each individual that I'm dealing with, and then align my goals with that unique motivation and just pour fucking gasoline on it so that that person feels their dream, sees the pathway to that dream, and I am a piece of getting them there. Now,
Yeah.
there are a few things that I heard you say on the video I watched that they reminded me of me. Like your motivation around, like, I want that car. And some people may say that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Like, why am I going to go through all this stuff to get a car? Whatever. But it was your motivation. I was the exact same, flat out on my ass, living in a garage. And I wanted a brand new Porsche Boxster. And I, like you, sat down and said, like, how much does this thing cost? I even picked out all the specs of the car. Like, I had it all there. And I was just like, I think I can make this thing happen if I just kind of do X, Y, Z. So anyway, what was your motivation? Was it just cars, or was it like something else?
Well, my parents were incredibly disappointed in me, so that was my big motivation. Because for me, I was always the one that, because I'm a child of 3.
You were a smart kid, right? You were
Yeah.
overachiever.
Yeah, I was an overachiever during my earlier years, and then I fell off massively. But it wasn't through my own. Well, it was my own fault for not being clear in my direction and getting caught up in the grind of. Well, I mean, when you're in that 9 to 5 grind and you just can't see a way out of it, it's very difficult to kind of work out any kind of steps to get out of it. Especially considering at work I was getting bullied for making YouTube videos and everyone's taking the piss. So it's not fun, because you've got all these small adversities that add up to something being quite more difficult. But for me, my main motivator has always been, I want to make my parents happy, and I want to buy my parents a nice house, nice car and stuff, because they've never. I mean, they've got. I mean, Dad's got an E-Class. It depends what E-Class is a nice car, but he's worked his whole entire life to have that car. Whereas I don't like the idea of working 40, 50 years in order to only be able to afford a Mercedes E-Class. I don't think that sounds like a good use of time.
Let me stop you there. So congratulations to your parents for driving that. It's almost like you love them enough that you don't want to disappoint them, and that was a tremendous gift they gave to you. They must be good human beings. I don't know if you've got brothers or sisters. Are you an only child? Have all the children kind of had the same trajectory or fire about their lives?
No. Well, my brother's always been smart as me in an academic sense, and my sister is more of she's never really been interested in academics or or even she just wants to live an easy life, does my sister. She wants to be a school teacher and just live the normal life. But that's each to their own. There's nothing bad about that.
Right.
Whereas my brother's smart and he went down the whole let's be a scientist route, and it's working out for him now. It wasn't for a while, as it doesn't for anyone at the start of the career, but it's steadily getting better to where he wants to be. But in terms of my career trajectory, it started going really well, and then it tailed off massively. And it was a disappointment. It's just disappointing to not be where you want to be.
Yep.
So yeah, I tried to change it.
So do you still use, because I just call them trophies. Like when I look at someone, and it's happened to me I'm older than you. I started my business when I was 23.
Mm-hmm.
And I was outside that business cleaning the windows on the Sunday night before I opened on the Monday.
Yep.
And it was an old post office in a town called Hope Mills. I had purchased the post office and turned it into my first business. But I was personally cleaning the windows of the post office. And a man drove up in a Toyota Camry, and he started to pitch me a multi-level marketing business. And I told him to go fuck off. Like, I don't have time for this. But in my mind, I had already built this like algorithm that says, I need you to look and talk and have the trophies. And if you have those, I will give you a segment of my time. Like I will think about the things that you're saying. But if it doesn't look right, it's a non-starter. Now that may be right, it may be wrong, but that's how I was approaching life, because I needed mentorship. I needed direction. I was already like risking it all to pursue my career path. And, I have a bit different story in regards to my background and upbringing, but I'm telling you, in terms of alignment, it's incredible to me. The drive you have to not disappoint, the fact that you have aligned some of your career ambition with these trophies in life, that they don't mean everything, but you can quickly assess in totality what someone's done in their life when you just take a quick inventory of the trophies that they have.
Yeah, that's very true. I've never even thought of it like that, to be honest, but it is very true.
No worries. Jordan, how old are you right now?
I am just under 25.
Amazing. I have a lot of young people who kind of follow me. And when I say young, I mean like high school kids, like, hey, I want to get into crypto mining, or I want to buy Bitcoin, or talk to me about Bitcoin. So, I've tried to help those folks understand it. It sounds to me that you've actually moved away from Bitcoin, though. So I'm not going to spend more time in the development of your backstory. I want to get into the fact that, you've made statements like Bitcoin's useless, and you seem to be more interested in projects. And I wonder, is that just you diversifying your opportunity to create revenue from consultancy or something? And let me stop there. That's the question.
Okay, that's a good question. So Bitcoin is useless as a peer-to-peer cash system. It doesn't work. You can't have a peer-to-peer global cash system that only does 7 transactions a second. You can't have a peer-to-peer store of value type system like gold that does 7 transactions a second.
Or
so in that sense,
or 1 transaction an hour.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Like no. I disagree with a lot of what you're about to say, because I think I've heard it before. But I actually think if you use Bitcoin to do anything right now, you are mental. And I only mean that because it's a terrible transaction. Why would you buy coffee with Bitcoin?
Yeah.
You're paying exponentially more for that coffee right now, and you're an idiot. Just a short time later.
That's true in the sense that Bitcoin's value will only go up. If you look at the value of my Lamborghini, my value of the Lamborghini has not changed, and yet how much Bitcoin I paid for it has.
Well, I would actually say the value of your Lamborghini has probably gone down a little bit. It probably holds value better than that Toyota Camry, the multi-level marketing guy rolled up in, but it's probably not worth what you paid.
Yeah. I can tell you what, I'm okay with people knowing what I paid for it.
Please.
I did. So the car cost £90,000. I paid for it in full. And then
did you liquidate Bitcoin to buy the?
Yes, I did. But I wanted it. The thing is, if you're not going to do the goals, what's the point in working up to them? And so
Fair point.
You could say, well, you could wait. I've spent my whole freaking last 18 months waiting. I'm done waiting. I'll buy the sodding car. So that was
Fair point.
that,
Fair
yeah,
point.
that was my my thoughts when it came to that. And yes, I'd have like 50 grand more if I hadn't bought it, but I did it. It's probably brought me that in terms of people click on a green Lamborghini on the internet sometimes. And so in terms of business, I mean, it is ultimately
or the personal joy, because again, I love cars. So I don't think people understand what it feels like to jump in a Lamborghini and just go for a ride and
yeah.
clear your thoughts.
Oh,
It's whatever.
for me, it makes my heart beat every time I walk up to it. But in the sense that I really don't want to do this because of all the attention that it brings, and it brings so much attention, especially with silly number plate that it's got on it, and silly color wrap it's got on it, and it's got an after well not it's got a Lamborghini race exhaust on. It's not an aftermarket one. It's aftermarket retrofitted to it, but it's a Lamborghini part. And it's very loud. It wakes up everybody. You can't drive it. I'm going somewhere in a couple of days, and I know for a fact that I'm going to wake up an awful lot of people because I'm setting off early in the morning. And when it starts up, because I start it up once a month, it's very, very loud every time, because every time is a complete cold start from scratch. And the biggest problem with owning that, never get time to drive it because I work all the time still. So it is, yeah, it's a trophy. Will I sell it? No, I don't want to sell it.
Yeah, and you don't have to. I mean,
No.
that's the
I'll buy another one instead.
that's right. Or you'll buy a different type of trophy. Like,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's really interesting. Explain to me the evolution into altcoins. Is it in fact you developing, a consultancy to help with tokenomics and actually get free, because look, I've been around the block a few times. So these folks who have consultancies, you get an early look at a business, you can help them with their tokens, and they give you a bag of tokens for free. And look, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's really the real OTC, the real early adopters are the people developing the tokens.
It's a good point to raise, because unfortunately, and I'll tell you the timeline of me doing crypto YouTube. So I started going heavy on crypto YouTube in kind of the bull market in 2017. Just after kind of the whole thing erupted, and my videos were focused on digging out people that would promote scams, primarily being Superman. And I'm sure that some of you viewers probably have seen those, because those videos were the ones that got the most views on my channel, aside from the car videos. And so a lot of people know me as just the guy that hates Superman. I don't know if you're familiar with Superman, but Superman doesn't like me, because I made a lot of videos basically doing before and after of what happened with these coins that had like 700, 800, $900 million market caps, going down to being a $10 million market cap, and everybody's lost 99.9% of the money.
Are you
So
talking a little bit about like BitConnect 2.0?
I'm talking about the ICO phase in particular. Okay. Just stick money in it. Complete gambling. It's not investing.
Yeah.
And I think we're actually in a similar time to that right now. In terms of why do I like altcoins, I believe that some of the projects will be successful. Not all of them. Ultimately, it's a gamble. It's a speculative gamble, but it's one that I've been historically very good at navigating to the point where I'm definitely up on my investment. So I don't do, I do, I guess, consultation. I don't charge for many things. I just have phone calls.
They pay you though in tokens?
No, I don't. I do a lot more investing these days. So I'll invest into a project early days.
You're acting as a venture capitalist, actually. I would challenge you to not use the term consultancy, because that's what these like guys are doing that are consulting in this space. Whereas you're acting as a venture capitalist, you're actually investing as an angel investor.
Yeah. So you go in with a lot of money early days and try and put the direction of that project.
That's right. You're buying potential equity in a company and getting there early and then helping them along. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool, actually.
That's the model that I've been going with these days, and it's been going increasingly better and better as time goes on. Ultimately, I invest in random altcoins. I do take sponsorships from people every now and again, because, as you know, in crypto, people offer you absurd sums of money sometimes, and of course, I don't go for the ones that offer absurd sums of money, because there's a reason why they can offer you such a large sum of money, and it's generally because it's a scam. But for the likes of what's a good example? Swissborg is a project that I've worked with since everybody stopped caring about them. It's and I'm not going to show you on the project, but it is, as far as I'm concerned, possibly one of the most legitimate projects in the space. I know the guys; they only live down the road from me here in London, and we get on very well. So we have a friendship as well as working together, kind of building the company. I don't have any equity in the company, but I
Jordan,
took a.
does he have rugs in his house?
He does, I think.
All
Yeah.
right, just be careful. Continue. Continue.
um, so I took up a very large holding anyway of Swissborg tokens, not equity in the company, but of tokens. And I took up these tokens, this holding, when it was like 1 cent, and then it went up to 17 cents.
Incredible.
So I was very happy at that time. Unfortunately, it's not up at 17 cents anymore. But this is all through the course of the year. It's currently around 8-9 cents, something like that.
Oh,
So
incredible.
it's still
Eight, 9x.
yeah, yeah.
If there's liquidity, that's incredible.
There is liquidity, because the whole idea behind the business is liquidity provision to exchanges.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like DeFi before DeFi was a thing. Rerouting money through exchanges. You know, like you go on Coinbase and you buy Bitcoin, but then they mark it up like 5%, and they also charge you a fee on top. It negates all of that nonsense that you've got to go through with these normal. It's literally just a fiat gateway, but it's cheap. And so that's just one example of a company that I've taken a large portion holding of tokens and then done my best as and I'm completely open with my audience as well. I don't go
When you sell the position, do you tell people?
yeah, but I
That-
generally
I do the exact same thing. Like I wouldn't call myself a Bitcoin maximalist. I would say that I'm 99% Bitcoin, and any
Mhm.
other investment I do is because I learned by putting money to work. So I bought Thorchain, I bought Chainlink, but
yeah.
it was only to learn, and I've sold those positions and told people.
Mhm.
And you know, I don't think you have to be overly sophisticated in regards to trading this stuff to get out and make money on this stuff. So
It's true.
that's like I'm very good friends with Crypto Bitlord, and he's a big time shit coiner, and he and I go back and forth on this. It's simply to get more Bitcoin, and that's his position. I would expect that's yours as well.
It is ultimately, the end of the day, the fastest way of acquiring Bitcoin is through trading altcoins, in my experience.
And is really Bitcoin the end game for you, Jordan?
Um,
Or is like holding an alt and getting the 100x?
well, if you look at my portfolio, it'd probably tell you that altcoins are the end game, although my mind is at
Do you
Bitcoin.
do you hold more altcoins than Bitcoin?
60% altcoins, I'd say.
Incredible. And
But then again, I'm a degenerate gambler that's under the age of 25. And
risk.
so
You have
I have high risk tolerance.
Yep.
So I look at it as a case of, so you put, say, 10K into something, the worst that you can lose is 10K. Whereas the upside, especially looking at some of the stuff that's coming out these days, the upside is 10, 20, 30x, especially if you work out where the way that the tokenomics are operating and who's investing in these things. Sometimes it can go very, very well, that will make up for any previous losses. And if you do that enough times, over time you make money.
Yep.
And so that is one of the techniques that I use. I guess it's more of a hit and hope is that one, but there is a lot of research and stuff that goes into it.
And then how do you create cash flow there? Because I mean, you have to have an enormous tax burden coming in and out of these positions. At least here in the United States, it was one of the reasons that I've been disincentivized to trade, because when I got started in 2015, I didn't even know what the government didn't even know what this stuff was. Was it a currency? Was it a property?
Mhm.
How do we tax this? And my activity alone had the FBI, the IRS, everybody at my house.
Well, I hope that never happens. I do pay my taxes. But it's more of a
It wasn't about taxes. It was about like cryptocurrency mining without using power and all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, I'm sure we'll talk again, but that's for another time. But how do you manage all that?
I have an accountant that
All right.
he solves those mysteries for me. But unfortunately, the FCA is banning derivatives trading here in the UK as of January the 6th, which means my operation has got to go abroad.
Yeah.
Because I don't intend on stopping it. I don't think it's right that a government should be able to take away my right to income. It's wrong. They're just trying to rug everybody that trades in the UK for a living. It's
They
not
have
right.
rugs as well.
Yeah.
All right, just be careful. Like I see rugs, not carpet.
This is what you're on about with rugs.
Carpet's okay, but when I see rugs, I'm smarter than I look. Smarter than I look. All right.
Well, I've got carpets in my house,
All
so
right.
there's no bother there.
We could be friends. We could have coffee or tea. All right. Quick question. Why do you hate Elizabeth Stark?
Elizabeth Starr. Who's that?
Lightning Network.
Oh, why do I dislike? Oh, okay. I just think I don't hate the Lightning Network. I think it's not an appropriate solution for every generation, is the best way of putting it. Because the way that I gauge how successful something is going to be, I've taught my parents how to use Bitcoin. Could my parents ever use a Lightning node? No. Could they understand why they would need to use a Lightning node? No. And so, yes, Lightning is a peer-to-peer cash system. It works, yes, but you've got to get people to understand what a layer 2 is. But explaining Bitcoin is difficult enough already, which is why I think that the idea of Lightning Network is flawed.
Yeah, look, I think that's a fair statement. I think the work that Jack Mallers is doing with Strike and both the user and the vendor being agnostic to cryptocurrency is very important. Like if you want to do a transaction over Lightning Network, you should swipe a card. If it's going to buy Bitcoin and transact, it should resolve any type of issues, slippage and taxes, and no one should know what's happening. Like
they should just do it layer 1. Just do it on layer 1, and then it would be going very well. Again, everyone has different opinions on this. Mine is not very strong. Ultimately, I look as Bitcoin as a store of value. That is what I see in value in Bitcoin. So
right.
that's
so buying a Lamborghini with Bitcoin is kind of numb. It's kind of not very smart.
Well, I concede that point. Yeah, it's not very smart, but
at
the same time,
buying a Lamborghini though because you want it is a whole nother discussion. I'm just talking about the fact of taking Bitcoin and buying cars with it is just not a smart thing to do.
Well, buying anything with Bitcoin is not a smart thing to do until Bitcoin's like really expensive.
I agree. And when Bitcoin gets really expensive and the volatility just kind of goes away, and we're never talking about Bitcoin because owning a Bitcoin is something unimaginable, right? We're talking about Satoshis or whatever you're going to call them, right? Those are the level of transactions we're at. Then it makes sense to me to actually do that. Because I just bought a beach house and I keep cash in GUSD just to get interest on it because it's just better than keeping it in a money market. The beach house I bought was the equivalent at that time of 136 Bitcoin. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, like this is so dumb. Like, why am I buying this beach house versus just buying another 136 Bitcoin? This was this year, by the way. And the beach house brings me joy. I get to spend time with my family there. Like I like to surf. I like the beach. Buy the beach house. You know what I'm saying? Like I get it. But that's my pizza story. I'm literally going to go back and say I paid $1.3 million.
Yeah, no, but it's a good story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And we'll enjoy that 10 years from now because I paid, $55 million equivalent for this $1.3 million beach house. All right. Now, this is a segment because we're running out of time and I get very, very serious here. So, this is deep thoughts. And, I try to work through things. Sometimes there are issues I'm dealing with. Sometimes there are things that I may think you're dealing with. Are you ready for this?
Of course.
All right. Jordan. And Jordan's your name, correct?
Yes.
Jordan, my wife is pregnant right now. I haven't had sex with her. Okay. What's your feelings about that?
That's completely your choice and none of my business. It's not I'm not one of them people that what's it called? Like a macho man. That's not me. I'm quite beta. But I think that helps. For me, not that bothered. I think that it's up to you shouldn't, of course, force yourself upon her. That's not right. It's her choice, not yours. At the end of the day. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Right, but in just clarifying, she's pregnant, but I've not had sex with her.
Oh, as in before. So who's the baby?
Jordan, I'm just looking for advice and input here. Let's move on. It sounds like this may be difficult. Jordan, are there birds in Canada?
Yes, I've been to Canada. It's a lovely place.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I spent quite a lot of time in Toronto. Very nice.
In Toronto, you're saying to me that you saw birds,
Yes.
and you will attest to that. You're certain
Well, it
that you
depends.
saw.
It depends on the definition of bird, but I saw the ones with flappy wings.
Interesting. Some would disagree, Jordan. Jordan, is an egg a fruit or a vegetable?
Um, that's a good one because yeah, that's a better question. Is that one?
Mm.
Um, I would say it's a vegetable because the seed is on the inside.
Very good. Very good. Finally, Jordan, I'm terrified by seahorses. And in 2020, the fact that seahorses are being scaled to the size of elephants is worrisome. What scares you?
What scares me? Failure. That's the number one. I'm not scared about losing everything. That doesn't scare me as much as being a failure, because ultimately I've built an infrastructure. That's so the number one is always failure. That's the scariest thing. I don't think there's anything more scary.
Very good. And you, do you ever go to the sea? Do you ever spend any time in the sea?
Yeah, every time I leave the country, not often in the UK because it's not very warm. But
If
yeah, I
you
like the sea.
encounter, Jordan, if you were to encounter one of these elephant-sized seahorses, you wouldn't be afraid. You're more concerned of failure than this terrifying.
No, I'd probably fill my pants with a brown substance that it would be quite scary, yes. But it wouldn't be as scary as failure, but it would be very scary.
All right, my man. Listen, I didn't cover 90% of what I wanted to talk to you about today. This stuff just kind of flies by. I would love to have part two with you, talk more about cars. I want to dive into kind of Ethereum trading, everything. Would you be up for that?
Of course, of course.
Look, you're a great guy, great success, and I really appreciate your time today. And listen, why don't you tell people where they can find that Martini Guy? I'll make sure I put links in the video as well.
Yeah, if you just look for the very oddly named channel, I mean, there's a whole story behind that in itself. He's got, I don't even really like Martini, to be honest. So we'll tell that story another time. You can find me, just type in that Martini Guy on YouTube, it'll come up, or on Google, it'll come
Love
up.
it, man. All right, well, listen, thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
All right, have a lovely day.
All right, take care.